Welcome back, 90 Day Superfans. Straight ahead on Skipping the Sheets, the off-camera conversations that'll make you question everything, why Rob wanted Cole to punch him in the face, and this shocking reveal. Who was Carlo planning to leave the resort with? You won't believe it. I watched 90 Day Hunt for Love Between the Sheets, episode 12, The Boy Who Painted Her Like a French Girl, so you don't have to. We are gearing up for the big finale next week. I cannot wait to see what goes down there. But we got 2 hours of drama. There is so much to discuss here. Everyone has a lot of feelings, including Cortney, who says she cannot believe that she is about to hook up with Colt. So that's right where we are here, and why Between the Sheets has been such a valuable addition to this season, the premiere season of Hunt for Love. We have needed all of these casts behind the scenes, the never before scenes, and to kind of get the real story on how these relationships developed, because I don't know about you guys, but I couldn't believe it either. Cortney said she actually thought to herself when she was on her little taco date with Colt at the hospital, ew, am I about to have sex with Colt? But let's see how she got there. So Colt explains on Between the Sheets that he was really gearing up for this date. He knew it was a big night. He is not returning to the resort, and he was going to have his chance at a little bit of romance with Cortney. So he actually had someone take him to wheel his wheelchair through the cobblestone streets of Mexico so that he could go get a $50 bottle of champagne to share on his date night. That's a lot to spend for somebody with no house and no job, but I think it sort of tells us how into Cortney Colt really was. And she's surprised by how much she's into it too. We saw their sexy taco date. Those fries looked absolutely delicious. And apparently at the end of the night, what we didn't see, lights go off. Cortney says they went to bed, and Colt, quote, rolled across the bed like a sniper to start up a little bit of an oral sex session on Cortney. She said she could not believe it. Really, what was going through her mind was, as she told us on Between the Sheets, ew, am I really doing this? That's not what everybody wants to hear. That was going through Cortney's mind. Of course, Colt is sitting watching this back too, but he probably felt a little bit better when she admitted, no, it was good. And we know that that was their first sexual encounter, and that it is all gonna heat up from there. So what does this mean for Cortney and Usman? I can't believe we're even still talking about Cortney and Usman. I cannot believe that he is trying to get the audience's sympathy. Now he went from throwing Colt under the bus and telling Colt to his face that Usman thought he was so much more of a man. And now he is just looking so sad and foolish. And we actually get this conversation between the two of them, Cortney and Usman, where she straight up finally rejects him. I sort of feel like she's been pretty clear, especially the last couple of weeks. She's been honest with him and telling him, I am developing this relationship with Colt and that I care very much for him. He is in this very dire situation, which Usman hasn't had a whole lot of sympathy for, right? And so this is Cortney finally telling him, stop it. I haven't been buying your little story the whole time, and this is going nowhere. So I want to rewind a little bit. Remember, in the first few weeks of this show, Cortney and Usman revealed they had spent time together in Turkey leading up to this. And it sounded like they were really talking a lot on the phone, being good friends. They both knew that each other were going to be at the resort. But then things went left at that very first masquerade party when Cortney pretended not to know Usman. And it sounds to me like they had, or maybe they thought they had a bit of an agreement, like, we've got something brewing here. Let's go to the resort and act like it started to brew there and let it all play out on camera in a way that will get us, a low cash and a lot more attention and possibly more appearances on future seasons of the show. So it seemed like a genius plan, and then it all fell apart really quickly when Usman's ego was hurt by, I think, Cortney probably just playing out their plan, and it all went south. So finally, 12 episodes later, Cortney outrightly tells him, you did not pursue me. It took him, forever, 8 weeks or something like that to even ask her on a date, that he was all talk and no action. And that's the perfect way to put it. It really has just seemed like Usman has been being performative for the cameras, saying that he loved Cortney, and all of that was just so freaking ridiculous. Did you guys buy any of it? Do you guys think that Usman is really hurt here, that he is sad over missing an opportunity with Cortney, or that he's just upset because he looks stupid, is what I'm thinking. I never believed that Usman really had strong feelings for Cortney, and obviously if he did, he would have been taking action and doing all those things that Cortney's been waiting for him to do. Meanwhile, we get this great scene of Colt describing how he says he fell in love with Cortney. Actually, I'm sorry, I'm not sure if he used the words fell in love. He's not being quite as pushy as Usman is, but Colt describes this scene where Cortney was laying on a bed on the beach by herself, and that Colt just took her in and thought she was so beautiful and didn't want her to be alone, and he went and just sat with her in the silence, I can imagine, with the waves crashing, and he's looking at Cortney's gorgeous face. Colt says that was really the moment. And it always sounds like Colt genuinely appreciates Cortney. Even before he had his leg injury, he was talking about how they would go and have breakfast together. We know that Cortney and Colt did that every single morning, and that's what they were doing actually when he was leaving her room and he fell. So it just seems like the connection between them is genuine, and I believe what they both say about it, unlike Usman this entire freaking time. But I do have a hard time buying what Colt is selling. He's doing a really good job of it here, but we just can never forget his history. Is both of his, well, I shouldn't say ex-wives, man, that always gets me every time, with his ex-wife, Larissa, and his estranged wife, Vanessa. We know this man's history. We know that every woman who has ever dated him says he is always talking to other women. He has an insatiable sexual appetite, and there are just so many red flags. The unemployed and no job thing. There are a lot of rumors online that Colt is maybe dealing with some tax issues, and what we know about his rumored very questionable behavior after they shot Hunt for Love. It just is so hard to believe that he is truly falling in love, but I am believing it a little bit. You guys help me here. I really don't know. I cannot wait until next week to see how they present the end of Cortney and Colt. Really more so, I think we're finally going to learn at the tell-all what truly went on between them after they left. It'll be very, very interesting. Well, Tim also weighs in a little bit on Between the Sheets, and he knows them both personally. So I take a lot of stock in these opinions from the other people on the cast. Tim says he thinks Cortney and Colt would make a good couple if Colt doesn't F it up, which is exactly what I'm saying here. So, and it sounds like that's exactly what he did. I'm really wondering too what Colt's future is going to be with this franchise and really the whole cast. That's something that we'll get a lot more answers on once the tell-all. We're just waiting for the tell-all, I have to be honest, you guys. The last few weeks of Hunt for Love has lost a lot of people's interest. I can see it. Fan commentary online, press coverage, and interviews the cast are getting. You can just tell that people are losing interest in this show. And I think that the tell-all will be what really brings everybody who has checked it at any point back and will, again, answer some of these questions. We were always wondering, how real is it? I am always looking for clues about what really went down, and I mentioned at the beginning of this, there are so many off-camera conversations that are mentioned on Between the Sheets that really shine light on what was really happening, and so that's the real stuff. That's not what they want us to know. We want to know the truth. Meanwhile, the rest of the cast is also getting a little down and dirty, exploring at their Sexpectations workshop. Let's recount this scene with Cole and Tim acting out whatever position it was, prone, prawn. Everybody was confused. Tim says the reason why he got up so fast and volunteered to be Cole's sex dummy, basically, was because he knew that Cole was in a bad situation. If he picked any of the other girls, Jeniffer would be mad. The idea that he wasn't going to pick Jeniffer, I guess, is too obvious, or that would have been embarrassing for them. So Tim sees that Cole is in a bad spot, and even though Tim is Rob's boy, he said he was going to go and volunteer to do this. We have talked so much about the fact that there's fan speculation that Tim might be gay, and Tim just could not freaking care less. I love that about him. I think let that narrative continue to fly. Be metro as all hell. Wear your Versace undies and let it happen, because the fact that he's so unbothered by it is awesome and is a good look for him, as it should be. Who would care if he was, and he would tell us if he was. So all this, ooh, Tim looked like he really liked it. Oh, he was, according to Chantel, making some really funny faces that the audience couldn't see on camera on the other side. And so this was just a fun, cute little moment that Rob thinks that Jeniffer would actually have wanted in on. But I would like to remind Rob that Jeniffer wanted to have a trans woman was Jennifer's dream, and she also talked about having Rob and Colt at the same time, but I don't think throwing Tim in there would be appealing to Jeniffer. The cast are also obsessed with this idea of the kangaroo position that Usman mentioned. They all try to demonstrate it on Between the Sheets. It's not really worth a watch. If you want my opinion, we've seen enough of this stuff every week, but it is interesting to see what everyone's interpretation of it. You know, it seems like everyone was afraid to Google kangaroo position and see what it really was about. And if you did Google kangaroo position, would you get anything? Maybe not, because Usman admits that he just made it up. Well, you might have been onto something there, Usman, because according to ChatGPT, kangaroo is basically a variation on standing rear entry or lean forward doggy style. Okay, that's another thing, I guess. But the label kangaroo makes it sound more adventurous than it is, according to AI. So there is our answer, everybody. I was going to say, well, you know, if you want to try this and you want to talk about it, we should really, but I think probably the conversation about kangaroo position has been exhausted at this point. So let's get into Tiffany and Elise's frenemy-ship. I guess we're learning it what it really was and how it's breaking down over Carlo. Again, I just have to say, I cannot believe that the man that the women are fighting over after this many weeks and everybody who's there is Carlo. I am also just shocked by his behavior, how he's handled this. From the moment that he hooked up with Elise, every move he's made has been counterintuitive to the behavior that he's shown before, the person that I was kind of thinking that he was. So this is pretty interesting, and it is just so messy. People were getting on Tiffany pretty hard after last night's episode about some of the things that she said about Elise. And I really was wondering, she seemed so angry, Tiffany did, even when they were talking about it on Between the Sheets, which was filmed months later. I mean, of course she's gonna be mad and hurt over what Carlo did, but she responded in a way that was really sassy. And so she explains the reason for that was because Carlo was saying a whole lot of other stuff that we did not see as the audience on camera, just really talking up his experience with Elise. And I think probably what bothered Tiffany is that Carlo was saying this wasn't a mistake. I'm not sorry, basically. So I cannot blame Tiffany for being hurt by that. I, though, do wish she would have chosen some different words. I want to say this. It's not like we need to have a different expectation on women of like, she should be better than and know better than to get mad at Elise too. She should just be mad at Carlo. Well, there's no reason why she should be held to a higher standard because she's a woman and she shouldn't diss on another woman. Of course, this is what's going to happen here. This is messy. This is exactly the situation that these people have been put in to make good television. And Tiffany, I think, is just being super honest with her feelings. She's not trying to act like she's cool with it. She is not trying to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to slut shame Elise. What do I say then? She's just saying it. She's just doing it. And I've had a lot of respect for the way that Tiffany has conducted herself. And as much as I didn't love to hear her slut shame Elise, I have to respect a little bit her position in all of this. There was also something that the audience didn't know at all watching 2 hours of all of this go down. And it happened on Between the Sheets. We were shown a never before seen scene of Tiffany telling the therapist Tanya that she wanted to be exclusive with Carlo, that she was really ready to give it a try with him. However, Tiffany had not yet relayed this to Carlo, but somehow the whole cast knows that she had this conversation with the therapist when they're discussing it later. So that's a little suspect to me. And also, Elise keeps talking about Tiffany manipulating Carlo and kind of like exerting her power over Carlo, that he was scared. Well, if Tiffany is sitting pouring her heart out with a therapist talking about how she really likes Carlo and thinks it's worth being exclusive with him, then clearly she wasn't just trying to manipulate the situation, do something for television, and like get this guy to look like he likes her. It clearly was deep. There really were some real feelings between Tiffany and Carlo. But Elise has been saying this every single week. Elise planted these seeds since the very beginning that she and Carlo were close friends, and she has been saying forever that Carlo didn't really want to be with Tiffany, that he would go to Elise after his dates with Tiffany and kind of talk shit about Tiffany. So Elise's story hasn't changed. But we also have to remember that she started telling this story already knowing what was going on after what had all gone down at the resort. So I still cannot quite figure out if Elise is honest as all heck and has been this whole time, or if she is just still covering her ass and telling a story. Tiffany's got something to say about that. She claims that Elise was texting Carlo novels, telling him that this was not going to be a good look for him if he did continue on with Tiffany. It sounds to me like Elise was the one who was manipulating Carlo, according to Tiffany. We also learn that Tiffany and Elise were closer than we've seen. Tiffany recounts this conversation that they had. Sounds like there was a lot of personal info spilled between the two of them, where Elise talked about losing her fiance and that they had this deep conversation that somehow, according to Tiffany, seems like she thought really bonded them with some girl code that Elise wasn't really into. Elise doesn't talk about Tiffany in a way that makes it sound like she ever liked, respected, or considered her a friend. And Tiffany kind of does the same. Tim, here he goes again, giving us the real spiel, telling us what was really kind of going down between the scenes. Tim actually interrupts Elise on Between the Sheets when she's sitting there talking about her friendship with Tiffany. And he's like, tell the truth. Tell the truth, he says to Elise. Tiffany really did think that you guys were friends and you broke girl code. I was happy to see Tim say this to Elise because I wanted to know what her reaction was to that. And also, the greatest relationship clearly that's coming out of this, the closest, most everlasting relationship clearly from this, is going to be Tiffany and Tim's friendship. So she needed somebody in that moment when she wasn't sitting there on the couch to be like, Elise, be real with us, please. And so thank you, Tim, for doing that. Chantel weighs in too. She's like, maybe this is why no one liked Elise. And we heard a little bit about that last week when Elise claimed that she was kicked out of the Normie Singles group chat because no one liked her, but she didn't really explain why that might be. Well, Chantel says, hey, maybe it's the stuff you're doing, pretending like you're friends and hooking up with so-and-so. Courtney even chimes in and says, yeah, I don't really trust her either. We know that now Elise and Courtney are best friends, literally calling each other BFFs. They're on the press tour together. And so I can imagine that now Courtney has gotten to know Elise better and does trust her now. But I think we could all understand, either from the Normie Singles perspective or from the 90 Day Singles perspective, why Elise would have been a little threatening, why it would have seemed like she was doing the most and making the most mess. And it seemed like there are some people who just didn't want any part of that. Those people ended up not being on camera hardly ever, and that's a lot of the Normie Singles, and we don't even know their names. So who played their cards right, Elise or the rest of you kicked her out of the group chat? I don't know. We'll see when the next season of The Single Life or 90 Day Diaries premieres, right? And of course, with the tell-all, also not just getting updates on the couples, but to see the cast really take each other to task. We know now that they're all about getting the cast to yell at each other and interact. So a big part of that will be this tell-all for sure. Like how Jeniffer called Elise on Hunt for Love a piece of trash, and then said on Between the Sheets that she now regrets that, but just that Elise was such a B to her that Jeniffer was justified in calling Elise a piece of trash. I do feel a little bit bad for Elise in the narrative that's coming out about her. She's clearly sensitive to being called out for hoe tendencies and has been trying to clean up her reputation a little bit. All these bikini butt shots in Mykonos, where she's at right now, aren't gonna help, but she looks fantastic. And you check out what I think it's like at Elise Benson and see who Elise really is. I was going to say off camera, but that's all kinds of on camera. So go and check her out. I'm sure she would appreciate the follow. How about Rob, Jen, and Cole, the love triangle we've covered every week, which is getting to be another square again. They are adding May to the mix. If I had to guess which Normie single would never get caught up in the mess, it was going to be May. We've seen her turn down some of the 90-day guys without worrying that that's going to be giving up camera time. We have seen her be honest and just straight up say, I'm not doing that. Don't touch me. I just cannot believe that May is the one that was over hanging out with Rob playing dominoes off camera when it seems like she was trying pretty hard to put some boundaries up. So what was really going on there? Well, Jeniffer wants to get to the bottom of the story. What we knew as the audience was that Jeniffer saw May coming out of Rob's room one evening, and that according to Jeniffer, she looked disheveled. According to May, they had just been filming all day. She didn't have any makeup on anymore. She was probably done for the day at that point. And also, let's not forget that Jeniffer and Rob's whole hookup, the initial dirty deed we saw go down early on in the series that shocked us all, the most SCX we've seen on TLC ever. Let's not forget the whole guise of that was that they were going to go play Mario Kart. So I can imagine that when May told Jeniffer, we were just playing dominoes, which I believe they really were playing dominoes. Jeniffer probably thought they were playing dominoes in the same way that her and Rob were playing Mario Kart. Okay, and I think she was wrong. I'm really curious what you guys all think about all of that. But Jeniffer also says May was texting Rob. And this is what we heard about at the end of last week when Rob said, I think when we got our phones back at the end of our jet ski date, Cole had been reaching out to Jeniffer and he just got in her ear and she went and spent the night with Cole. However, Jeniffer now reveals that she saw Rob getting texts from May after her and Rob's date, and that is why she kind of went cold on him and went to go hang out with Cole. So we are really, I freaking love this. This night we are really able to kind of piece together what all happened from the little tidbits that we're getting from the cast on Between the Sheets. But even on the actual Hunt for Love episode, Rob stands there and tells Cole, hey, Jeniffer is jealous. Don't you see what she's doing here? And the way she came at May really was gross and too much, but it's just kind of par for the course on the behavior we've seen from Jeniffer. But Rob was like, Cole, do you not see this? Does this not bother you? This is getting tired. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And this is what I mean about the last few weeks right here. This is where it's getting tired. It is Cole playing the fool every week. It is Cole just taking it from Jeniffer every week. It's Cole seeing Jeniffer go make out with someone else, go talk to, date, make plans for the future with someone else, and still try to do the thing to get her attention. Try to do the thing to be her guy. In this moment, it's Cole defending Jeniffer for getting mad at May for spending time with Rob. You would think at the very least that Cole would have some more insight about this on Between the Sheets, which was filmed later. You'd think that he would have something to say to stand up for himself or to explain himself. Maybe at least he would have some regret about I should have handled that different. Yeah, I should have told her to F off. But he doesn't. He still doesn't. So when Colt and Elise call Cole dumb and call him a cuckold on Between the Sheets, normally I would say that's going a little too hard. It's too much. We're at the point it's not too much. That's exactly what we're seeing. Cole, you are acting like a dummy. He even explains, Jen wanted me to be confrontational and step up for her, and I wanted to keep her happy. Okay, bro, but he was willing. He was willing and ready to step up, to actually physically step up onto the platform next to Rob. And Rob's reaction to this is so funny when he is watching it back. He says he really, 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 really wanted to throw down hard with Cole. Rob says he was just hoping that Cole would punch him in the face so that they could really, really squabble, scrabble fights, throw down, more synonyms for men pounding each other into the ground over a woman. Rob was ready to finally do it, and he says, just wait for him to hit you first. Just wait. Don't hit him first. And I think that has less to do with self-control and more to do with the fact that Rob is really good at being calculated on camera and thinking about how he's gonna look, and knowing that not only is it a bad look if he throws the first blow, but also that could affect his casting in the future seasons and episodes if he gets violent. Let Cole do that. We're probably never gonna see Cole again after this. I think I said even last week, maybe he'll have a redemption, and there's a sect of female fans who are finding him very sweet and very cute, of course, but the way he is looking for himself, there's just nowhere to go. There's nowhere for Cole to go. I don't think anyone's going to want to see more of him being a simp, and I think this will be the last we see of Cole. Whether him and Rob really tussle or not, and we will have to wait till next week to see that. So let's wrap up here with a couple of random reveals. A lot of talk this week about Cortney selling her feet pics, and this is something that people are always so interested in, obviously just because the idea that you can make OnlyFans type money and not do sexually explicit things or not show a naked body, just do feet stuff. Of course, who doesn't hear that and think, well, that sounds like a great idea? Well, if it really works that way, wouldn't everybody be doing it? I mean, yes. The answer is yes. And Cortney even explains how she does it. She says she used to be a server and she would make a couple $100 and then she would go home and take pictures of her feet, make a couple $100 more and think, why am I even doing this? So does that give us a little insight into how this feet pic thing works? Was she taking a picture? Was it like, oh, my aching feet because I just got done with working and I know, are they supposed to be like stinky and gross? And like some people are into that aspect of it. I don't understand it, but I'm just as curious as the rest of you are. And I do have a wiki feet. I know that from many years ago. I haven't looked at it for a while, but a lot of people do. And that's definitely a thing. Cortney is the foot madam. They say they call her the foot madam of 90 days. She's even getting everybody else to sign up. And if anyone out there is interested, make sure you hit up Cortney and get her link so that you can get a discount for signing up and that she can get a little credit too. She said she makes money every time somebody else signs up to sell their feet pics. So if anyone dives into all of that or has bought Cortney's feet pics, you're not supposed to share them. Don't share them. We're not trying to blow up her spots, her money. But I'm just curious. Just let me know. What is your experience in buying feet pics from Cortney? I have to be honest with you guys too. I know a couple times I said, especially last week, I was like, I'm going to reach out to so-and-so and ask about this. I'm going to DM Elise and ask her if she was still covered in the beer Jeniffer threw on her when she hooked up with Carlo. And I, years ago, used to be that person who did that, who reached out and got the answers. I started all this by being on red carpets and really having access to a lot of the Bravo stars. That was before social media, before everyone had their own podcast. And it was really me getting those little details that were not be shown on the show, the questions that fans really wanted answered. And that gets real deep. That got to the point where I was on the phone at 9:30 at night with one of the 90-day stars for 45 minutes trying to defend himself and tell me his story about one specific very gnarly case. And I just don't really have the stomach for that, to be honest with you. The cast will just lie to you anyway. And so as much as I would love to go and ask them some of these questions, I don't think that would be very productive. And also, I'm not really trying to get involved in the way of, oh, I'm talking about them online, or they're talking about me, or I'm sharing DMs. I would never do that. So I know I've said that, and I do really want to ask Elise about the beer thing. And I think now that next week is going to be the finale, it might be time. It might be okay to reach out in a kind way and get some answers to some of the stuff we've seen. But I don't know. The idea still makes me uncomfortable. So let me know what you guys think about that. And if you want to reach out and ask these questions and give me the scoop, I will give you the credit for sure. It doesn't matter where the tea comes from as long as you guys all get it. So like I've said a few times, we are finally gearing up for the big finale. Next week, we're going to see who ends up together, and the cast is going to be forced to decide who they are going to leave the resort with. Well, we already know that Elise, they showed us in the preview, they've been doing this too. If you watch the What's On Next Week on Between the Sheets, it is so much juicier than the What's Up Next Week for Hunt for Love. So Elise explains that at this point where they're at in filming, Carlo had already bought a ticket to come to Miami after filming. So Carlo had already essentially made his choice to go be with Elise afterward. He had also slept over with Elise the night before the finale. So keep that in mind as it all unfolds next week. They spent that day together, and then he was texting her he could not wait to go back to Miami with Elise. So we're taking next week with a grain of salt, see what Carlo says to Tiffany, what he is saying on camera. Who gets down on one knee I'm certain that there is not a wedding proposal here, but what is truly going on? We are also going to see Tim kind of address his maybe relationship with May. And it sounds like there might be more going on between May and Rob, or they maybe had something budding really at the end of the time here. And we got to hear more about that. Not only that, but Cole is going to talk relationship with Jeniffer, you guys. If we thought this week was bad and we've given up on Cole, next week he is going to ask Jeniffer to be in a relationship with him and start to talk about the K1 visa process with Jeniffer. So not going to get any better with Cole. And do we even know what to say about that anymore? I think it is time to wrap up their time at the resort, get to the tell-all, and then move whoever is going to over to the single life and follow the people that we need to keep an eye on and forget that some of the rest of these people ever existed, because the 90-day universe is already pretty big. And we have got to get to talking about Gino and Jasmine and happily ever after, and that is what I am going to do with this feed when Hunt for Love is over. So make sure that you are subscribed both on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you're a podcast person, or on my YouTube channel where you can watch these video recaps. Make sure that you stick subscribed there, because this is not going away anytime soon, and I have a lot to say about the happily ever after folks too. And I know there's a lot going on in real time between those couples too that you guys want to know about and I want to know about too. So we are going to keep this all going. These will go up on Tuesdays next week after the finale. You can come back here Tuesday evening and we will break it all down. Also, make sure you check out the other videos on my YouTube channel. A couple episodes ago, on episode 9 of Skipping the Sheets, we talked about who might show up at the tell-all. There, you all had some good comments there and some good thoughts, so make sure that you go back and check that out if you missed it. And I will see you then. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.